How you doing? My name is Ken. I work at GV, formerly known as Google Ventures. I know people are still kind of coming back, so since you're all fed and it's after lunch, sometimes people can get into a little bit of a kind of a funk, food coma. So I'm going to start with some audience participation. I heard some nervous laughter. I'm not going to make you dance or hug each other or anything. I'm going to say some phrases, and I want you to think of how it makes you feel. So the first one, would you like a piece of cake? Right? So you're already fed, right? But, you know, cake, yeah, it feels positive, you know, kind of like maybe your mouth starts to water a little bit, you know, you get maybe blood sugar starts to rise. Let me try another one. You're going to need a root canal, right? So maybe you've had dental work, you may even have felt like a sharp pain in your jaw, just kind of negative, this kind of gut feeling. So try this one. Hey, don't we have a meeting right now? Like, doesn't that's at least for me, that's more like root canal than it is like cake, right? You're just like, meeting. Even the word meeting, right? It just sounds like, ooh, meeting. Are we meeting? I have a meeting. We're gonna go to meetings, right? Why does it sound so bad? Well, because meetings suck, right? Meetings for the most part generally suck. If you're like a lot of people in the corporate world, your day starts like this. You come in the morning and you're feeling, you know, a little positive, but you know, a little trepidatious. You're looking at the clock, you're looking at your calendar, and then it kind of goes like this, and you're like, I've been meetings, and there's more meetings, and then finally, end of the day, you're like, now finally, I can do some real work, right? And what I want to do today is help you break out of this cycle, because it turns out that meetings, for the most part, don't have to suck. And most of the meetings you probably have, or most of the meetings you do have that you think suck, you don't need to have. There's a lot of research that's gone into thinking about how the corporate world treats meetings, and it's actually pretty dismal. I think it's something like 25 million meetings a day or something in the United States, and so the Harvard Business School survey has shown that if you ask the participants in these meetings, they say that on average about 2/3 of them are a failure, right? So that's like 2/3 of their time they're saying was completely wasted in these meetings, where they're maybe half paying attention and half trying to do some work, but in reality you're like 20% paying attention and 10% doing work, and the other 70% is lost productivity. And it adds up to something like $37 billion a year, I mean, something absurd like that, in terms of just lost money, lost productivity. So I want to give you some advice. I want to walk you through a few things that we've learned at my years at Google, and then also in my time working with different portfolio companies, including Slack, in ways that they've been able to improve their meeting pace. And it's particularly a challenge in fast-growing companies, because what used to get done in kind of small groups and small meetings suddenly starts to scale up. There's more people in the company. There's more communication channels. That weekly meeting that used to have 6 people in it suddenly has 35 people in it. And so it's particularly important, I think, for a lot of the people that are probably in this audience are thinking about how do we scale our company, grow fast, continue to build, but at the same time continue to operate as quickly and efficiently as we have in the past. So I think the first thing I want to say is I hate meetings. I want to get rid of them, but that doesn't mean that I don't like face-to-face communication. Like I think that actually that's pretty great. I think a lot gets done when you get a couple people or a handful of people face-to-face and get them in the room. You're able to resolve conflict. You're able to build a team. It's a much higher fidelity communication channel. So when I talk about cutting back on meetings, I don't necessarily mean cut back on actually talking to people, because it turns out that's actually pretty useful. In fact, what I argue is by having fewer stupid meetings, you're spending more time actually having productive work and productive interaction with each other, as opposed to this kind of scheduled, unproductive interaction. So since we're here, I have to give a shout out to Slack, is probably more responsible for destroying bad meetings than probably any other company over the last several years. And Slack has proven that the best meeting is one you don't necessarily need to have, right? You can do things in Slack. You can have interactive conversations. You can post weekly updates. You can keep working docs. So there's proof here in this room, in this building, that meetings can get better, and that's something that Slack has been very committed to. But Slack's never going to replace every meeting. It's never going to replace any interaction, and nor should it. So the first thing I want to do is talk to you about how to look at your calendar and what you should do first. And the first thing you should do is kill the status meeting. You know this one? This is where it's like every Tuesday at 10, we go around the room, right? It's like, what have you been working on? Well, I'm doing this, and there's like 15 people in the room, and most people are on their laptop or on their phone, and you're just like, what are you working on? Oh, so are you working on this? And if you're the CEO, right, you think that meeting's great because that's, or the manager, because that tech meeting is really for you and no one else. Right, it's everybody else is telling you what's going on in their life. And nobody would ever actually tell you that meeting sucks because they know that meeting's for you. So when, it's like, oh, what did I do this week? Oh, this meeting, it friggin' sucks. That's what I did this week. Nobody's ever going to say that, right? So everybody's going to kind of live up to it and do their part and completely hate it. And that's the very first thing that you can get rid of. Slack is tremendous for this. You can do weekly stand-ups. You can do your weekly updates in Slack or even in email or even in snippets. There's no reason why it has to be this time spent in a room, going around the room, telling everybody else what you're working on. There are much, much more effective ways to do that. So kind of as you think about looking at your calendar and looking at your weekly team interactions, that status update meeting, kill it. Now, on the other side, there's an important kind of meeting that is probably the most important thing in your calendar, and that's the one-on-one meeting. So one-on-ones in many ways really kind of aren't meetings. They're conversations between two people. And if you're a manager in particular, or if you're a CEO or you're a founder, you have to remember that those meetings aren't for you. They're for your employee. They're for your direct report. They're an opportunity for them to have a candid conversation, to talk through interesting problems, to just talk about how life is going for them, what their career interests are, what their career plans are. And so I think the first thing I always recommend, and I try to do this myself, is keep these one-on-ones sacred. They're more important really than anything else on your calendar. And we've all had managers that kind of kept canceling their one-on-ones or coming late and saying, well, do we really have anything to talk about today? Do we need to meet? And of course, your employee's going to be like, well, no. They're never going to say, yeah, I do want to have this meeting. And that doesn't send a very good message, right? That doesn't, when your CEO is like, yeah, I don't think you're important enough to have a conversation with. There's a few things that I like to do with one-on-ones. I think that walking one-on-ones or kind of getting out of the building and going and doing something, even if it's just getting a cup of coffee or walking around the block, they're really, really effective. I think for a couple reasons. There's something that is different about conversations with people when you're walking in the same direction as opposed to kind of sitting across from a conference room and talking to each other. The other thing that ends up happening with one-on-ones is if you're in a room and you have a 30-minute one-on-one, when you're 20 minutes done and you've talked about all the things you want to talk about, you probably break. Well, when you're doing a 30-minute walk, you don't. You keep walking, you keep talking. And it turns out that like injury time, extra 10 minutes that you might have had where there was really nothing on the agenda, can sometimes be where the most important conversations happen. Because that's the things that may not necessarily be urgent, but they're very important. So they may be talking about their career interests, and they may want to talk about difficulty they're having with a coworker, or just ideas they have for the future. So keep one-on-ones really important. They're very, very important with you. And so certainly if you're a manager or your CEO, you should have one-on-one with everybody on your team. You should have one-on-ones with all of your peers. And you don't necessarily, they don't need to be weekly. They could be, monthly. They could be every 2 weeks. But make sure there's a regular tempo for having these one-on-one conversations with people that you work with. It's tremendously important. Okay, so when it comes to actual meetings, every meeting needs to have an owner. So one owner, one person who's responsible for the meeting. And their job is to decide the purpose of the meeting, circulate the agenda ahead of the meeting, make sure the right people are going to attend the meeting, and then, be responsible for any follow-up or notes or action items that come out of it. And it's amazing how very few people actually do this, like how few meetings actually, have that single owner. Like you get in that room and you're like, is this your meeting or is this my, whose meeting is this again? Okay, what are we meeting for? Like one person should be responsible for this. And it should be their job to make sure the right people are involved, to make sure that if a point of view is missing, that person is represented, to make sure everybody who walks in that room knows exactly what the point of the meeting is and why we're here. And that's the agenda. And so what is the agenda? Well, the agenda should say, what is the point of the meeting? Do we need to make a decision? Are we brainstorming? Are we giving an update? Like, what is the point of it? And what does success look like? So if we're making a decision, well, what decision needs to be made? How will we know when we're done? Well, when we've decided X, Y, Z. Or are we seeking input? If we're seeking input, whose input are we seeking? And what do they need to do to prepare ahead of time so that they're able to be productive in that meeting? Who's responsible, and what do I need to do to prepare? So everybody that's coming to that meeting, you should be able to walk in knowing exactly why you're there. There's another nice thing that tends to happen when you know exactly what the meeting is for and exactly what the point of it is you discover sometimes you don't need to go, right? Sometimes you go, you know what, I don't actually need to be at that meeting. I feel cool with whatever you're going to decide. Or, actually the only concern I have is X, Y, Z. And as long as you guys are thinking about that or talking about that, I'm fine. I don't need to be there. Or, you know what, you don't need all three of us from our team. We'll designate one person. So people can make more informed decisions about what they're going to do, as opposed to kind of feeling like it's a meeting surprise. And you're like, I don't know what they're going to talk about. It could be really important. And if I'm not there, I could be shut out. So have the owner of the meeting declare up front the point of the meeting and share the purpose and the agenda ahead of time. And also who's going to be there. This is a symptom. I don't think we probably see this very much with a lot of the companies that are here, because you tend to be, you're obviously pretty hip, and you like Slack, and you kind of know how work can really be done. But one of the diseases that you tend to get in companies, particularly big companies, is this sense that being busy makes you important, so that your calendar, if I got a lot of things on my calendar, that somehow is representative of me being super important. Right? It's like we all know this guy. He's like, oh yeah, I'm I've got 20 meetings today, and my first available is not till October. That's not good. That's not good. That's making it important. That makes you a jerk, right? That makes you just delay other people's ability to get stuff done. By thinking that you're important because you're in lots of meetings, you're just propagating this disease, this sense that your availability or lack of availability is what dictates your importance. And it turns out, no, being available to people means being available to them, not being in meetings. And part of this is this notion that, a calendar should never delay a decision. And we need to decide X, Y, Z. Well, when are you available? Well, next Thursday. Okay, I'll see you next Thursday. And this is, working with lots of companies that grow very fast and have gone from, 20 people to 100 people to 500 people. This is consistently one of the reasons that they start to slow down as companies start to grow. And you're like, we used to be able to make a decision in an hour, and now it takes us weeks and months. Well, a lot of times it's because there's this idea that everybody that is involved in that decision has to be in the same room at the same time. And just inevitably, the busier people get, the less likely that is to happen right now. When we were all sitting next to each other, or we were all online and on chat at the same time, we could resolve these things really quickly. Now we're scheduling things out weeks, months in advance. And so if you need a decision made, don't ever let the calendar interfere with that. Grab people in the hallway, have a conversation on Snap, say, I'm going to send an email, or I'm going to send a Slack with the proposal, and please let me know if you like it, because we can't wait for this decision. And that doesn't mean that every decision is urgent. Not all of them are, but they're important. And they shouldn't wait for when people can get in the same room. And so this is something that that really, really grinds me, and it starts to happen with these big companies where we need to talk to so-and-so, and you're like, okay, well, the first available is October 15th, and suddenly everybody has basically put whatever it is depending on that decision on pause for a month for no other reason than that was the soonest you could get on somebody's calendar. Another part of this is keep meetings really small. I think 3 to 7 people is as big as a meeting should ever get. Another thing that we find in fast-growing companies is you have a meeting and then new people join and they are in the meeting, and then all of a sudden you've got 30 people or 25 people in this meeting that used to be pretty lean, but it's just kind of hard to argue that any of these people shouldn't be there, and then it just kind of starts to decay. So there's a few tips you can use. I think one is as I work with companies, I recommend smaller conference rooms, inevitably, if you don't have the giant conference room, you can't get lots of people in the room, it's just uncomfortable. You can do stand-ups, keep the meeting shorter and smaller. You can do Slack stand-up, Slack conversation, where the number of people in the room synchronously isn't as important. You can restrict some of the bigger rooms to only being bookable by certain people. And you could just kind of have a culture of we really don't need that many people in a meeting. If there's that many people in a meeting, then there's probably either it should be an all hands because it's important to the entire company or the entire team, Or it's because there's a bunch of smaller things that need to get done that could get done elsewhere. And this is another thing. So meetings don't need to be long, right? A lot of companies I've worked at, it was like 60 minutes. Meetings was like the default. It was like every meeting was 60 minutes, right? Try changing that to 30, right? Literally go into Google Calendar and change the default meeting length to 30 minutes. I think you're going to find that you can accomplish this as much in 30 minutes as you would have accomplished in an hour. And if you need an hour meeting, you'll be deliberate about saying, well, how much time do we really need? And don't let people book like long, it's like, well, we have I'm going to book out, 4 hours on Monday for us to meet about this. You're like, you don't need 4 hours on Monday. Like, why do we need to do this? Let's have a short, brief meeting. What's the purpose of the meeting? What's the point of the meeting? Let's do it. Another thing I recommend is having a very strong culture of kicking people out of conference rooms when the meeting's over. This is something I loved about Google from day one. It's like you're 1 minute over, like the door opens up and people are like, get out, we need the room. I worked at other companies where they were just like 10 more minutes, and then you have this like, that just propagates, right? That just like compounds, and then every other meeting is late, and then everybody feels like they can run over, and you just don't respect the meeting time, you don't respect the room. So have a culture of saying, look, your 60 minutes are up, we need the room, or your 30 minutes are up. Shorter meetings. Think about how much meetings cost. There's obviously the actual dollar value, right? I mean, everybody gets paid money, and they're sitting in that room, and there's some kind of imaginary clock ticking, like the national debt calculator. Like, this is costing us money, but more importantly, I think, is the opportunity cost, right? Because money, people are going to get paid, but it's what else they could be doing, what else they could be working on, that tends to be the most costly. So I want you to try a trick next time you have a meeting. Particularly if you're a manager or CEO, or if you lead a team, is as the meeting is starting, go around the room and look at everybody in that room and try to think about what they would be doing if they weren't in the room, right? And it's interesting. It's humbling, right? Because you're like, well, they would be fixing that crazy bug, or they would be out closing that $100,000 deal or whatever, and it starts to kind of force you to think that is this thing that I'm asking them to do the most important thing they could be doing right now. And when you think about opportunity cost, you have to also think about the switching costs, right? So it's not just, I'm in your meeting for 30 minutes. For 15 minutes before it, I had to stop what I was doing and figure out if there was anything I needed to do to prepare. I had to walk to the meeting. Now after the meeting, I'm going to have to go back to my desk, and it's going to take me 30 minutes to even remember what I was doing and get back up and running and get productive. Rule of thumb, particularly for tech professionals, is that every minute of meeting requires a minute at least of lost productivity and switching costs. So if you're asking somebody to come to a 30-minute meeting, you're asking for at least 30 minutes of lost productivity from them, if not more. And so just kind of keep that in mind. That doesn't mean you should never have meetings, but they should be worth it, right? The same way that you don't spend $20 on something without thinking, what else could I get with my $20? You should have the same behavior when it comes to meetings, particularly when it comes from asking for other people's time. The meeting's done, go, right? Like if you have a good agenda and you know exactly what you want to accomplish, and you're 20 minutes in, how many of you well, we got 10 more minutes, what should we talk about? We should talk about how I want to get back to my desk and get back to work. What should we talk about? Like if you have a 30-minute commute and you get home in 20 minutes, you don't sit in your driveway in your car for the last 10 because it's a 30. No, you go back to work, right? And sometimes I think that's maybe seen as we did something wrong. No, that was great. That's success. You thought it was going to take you this much time. You did such a good job preparing that you did it in less time. Great. Give people their time back. And I think that, again, particularly important as you have longer meetings, right? If you have a 1-hour weekly update meeting scheduled, it's always going to take 1 hour, right? So start to kind of get smaller meetings, start to get shorter meetings, and give people their time back, right? We're done. We had 3 things on the agenda. We're done. Go back to your desk. I like to say that inviting somebody to a meeting is really borrowing their time, right? We've talked about the value of time and switching costs and what they could be working on. It's like it's like borrowing your neighbor's ladder, right? You ask nicely, you use it for only as long as you need, and you say thank you, and you give it back, unless you're a horrible neighbor. But you're really borrowing something from them, right? You're borrowing their time, and it has to be a worthy transaction. It has to be respectful. And again, going back to this notion of, being in lots of meetings doesn't make you important. If you start to have a culture of not feeling like being in lots of meetings is important, then you start to feel okay about not going to certain meetings, or not being invited to certain meetings, or being willing to say, I don't, what, actually I don't need to be there, as opposed to feeling like you have to be at every single meeting that everyone invites you to. Other people's time is a scarce resource. Another way to think about it is when the world ends and there's apocalypse, which may or may not be imminent, think about what am I going to be glad that I went to all those meetings? Like, what would I rather have done something else with my time? Would I rather have been spending time with my family, or enjoying the outdoors, or whatever it is I want to do? Like, that's what you're doing. Like, you're taking lifetime from people by asking them to be in a meeting, and it has to be, it has to be treated and respected like that. It can't just be something that's seen as a default resource that's available to you to take whenever you want. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about decision-making, because I think this is an important part of meetings. And I say the word escalation, like escalate sounds kind of negative, it sounds bad, it sounds like passive-aggressive, like I'm going to escalate. But actually, what I would argue is escalation is like a really good thing. And having a culture of being able to quickly escalate to get decisions made is like really, really important. If two groups of people or two people can't reach a decision, well, then they should bring it to the person who can make that decision. Like, that's what they're paid the big bucks for, right? So that's why managers and CEOs exist, is to make difficult decisions when they're confronted with conflicting data. Otherwise, like, stuff starts to fester, right? Like, you have two groups that they can't make a decision, and then it just kind of like they hack at each other for a while, or they get passive aggressive, or passive resistance is like really poisonous. So you should be able to say, okay, well, we can't decide. Let's take it to the boss. Let's get a decision. I'm going to lay out my argument, you're going to lay out your argument, and they're going to make a decision. So don't tolerate that kind of trench warfare from lack of decision-making. This, again, goes back to why calendars shouldn't delay decision. Like, if you've got two teams that can't agree, now they're going to wait for a month and kind of fester and argue and kind of passive-aggressively beat at each other until they can get on somebody's schedule. That's a problem. And so, having a culture of escalation, I think, is a really good thing. You should be able to say, like, we don't agree. Let's go to the person who can agree. And there should be clarity on whose job it is to make that decision, right? There should be just, every decision should have one decider. There's a lot of people that provide input, but it should be clear that there's one person who's going to make that decision. And if there's not, you need to work to make sure your organization makes that clearer, right? If you have too many people that all think that they're the deciders on something, decisions aren't going to get made. So I think that that's something that you should say. If you're a leader in particular, you should say, "Hey, look, escalation's a good thing, right? It's what we're here for. If you can't make a decision, but come to us and we'll make the decision. We make decisions quickly, because the wrong decision, is sometimes not as bad as no decision at all. And so getting decisions quickly is super important. And then the second follow-up part of that is then commit. Right? So if I wanted the decision to go the other way, but now the decision's been made, I'm on board, right? Like, I may disagree with it, or I may have wanted to see it go another direction, but now I'm committed, right? I'm on board. I'm not going to continue to undermine and try to go my own route, or just kind of passive aggressively undermine something. Like, no, it's like I'm going to escalate. We're going to get a decision made, and we're going to commit. Okay, so how do you do this? Hopefully, some of these felt self-evident to you, and maybe some of them felt like, I don't know how we can do that at my company. So I want to talk a little bit about how do you put this into practice. Having worked with a bunch of different companies, I think there's a few tips that I can recommend. The first is that it really has to start from the top, particularly if you feel like you have a really bad meeting culture today, like if a lot of these things rang true. It's very, very difficult to just kind of start a grassroots effort to fix meetings. Like, you really need commitment from senior leadership, whether that's the CEO of your company or a division manager, or even just your boss. It's very difficult to kind of make this stuff happen without a really kind of a cross-company, cross-organizational commitment. But should you have that, and hopefully you do, what do you do? Well, the first thing I recommend is just do a complete reboot. It's really fun, and it's actually kind of cleansing to see this done with a company where everybody does it together. I worked with one company in our portfolio where literally it was like on January 1st, we're wiping the calendar. Like they wrote a calendar API script, right? To just reboot. And then we're going to add things back. So, do we still need that other meeting? No, we really don't. Well, let's start adding our one-on-ones in. Let's make sure we optimize them so that they're happening on the right interval. Maybe we're going to pick a day a week that's no meeting day. We've done that at different companies I've worked with, and it's not always successful, but it at least forces people to ask, right? They may still schedule a meeting when they see no meeting Thursday, but they're probably not going to do it without at least saying, hey, I see you've got no meeting Thursday. Can I schedule this meeting? Which they should really probably be doing for any other day. But starting to kind of add back only the meetings that you really feel are necessary. There's another advantage to this too, which is if you have meeting bloat, if you've had these kind of status meetings that have grown to be like 25 people, it's really hard to pick 15 people to kick out, right? People feel sad when you tell them that they're not going to come to the meeting anymore. They feel left out or unimportant. But when you completely kill a meeting and then start over anew, it's a really convenient way to kind of go from, hey, that thing that used to be 20 people that we would do once a week, I think actually with just these 5, every 2 weeks is going to be totally fine. And nobody's going to be bummed out because it's a completely different meeting. Also, you get the advantage of being able to reboot your conference rooms if you have like all sorts of like conference rooms, like defrag them, right? Like you got this one was always too small, and just kind of start over, declare bankruptcy. And then vote with your feet. Like give people permission to, if these rules are being violated, to just say, I'm not going to go. Like, I'm not going to go to that meeting. There was no agenda. I don't even know who the owner is. I'm not going to go. I only go to meetings where I know what the point of the meeting is. And they should feel free to decline. Like, you should be able to say to people, hey, look, if you don't think you need to be at something, that's fine. That's good, right? That means you trust other people on the team to make the right decisions, or you trust other people who are in that room. That should be good, right? For somebody to say, I don't think I need to be at your meeting. So I think what they're really saying is, hopefully, I trust you to do the right thing. So give people permission to do that. Like, vote with your feet. Being able to anoint maybe one representative to go to a meeting when you don't need all 3 of us there. So I've seen this happen. Like, it is possible to go from this crazy, nasty meeting culture, just horrible day, to actually being meeting-free, but it's something that requires maintenance. It's not something you're going to do once and fix it. You're going to kind of have to keep coming back to it and making sure that things are staying on track and that you're adhering to these rules. But after you do it, people will start to immediately feel the effects of it, and they'll feel great about it, and they'll actually feel pretty possessive about that meeting culture. I've seen this with startups where when they've gone through this and it's a good place, you now suddenly have these earlier employees who feel like they're kind of the stewards of this better meeting culture, and they're the first ones to come to you and say, hey, remember how we said we were going to get rid of all these crazy meetings? Like, look at my calendar. It's back to where it was. We got to fix this. Okay, so here they all are. Kill the status meeting. First and easiest thing to do. Keep one-on-ones sacred. One-on-ones are like oil changes, right? Like if you don't technically have to get your car's oil changed, but if you don't, it's probably going to break down at a pretty inopportune time. Every meeting has one owner, and that owner is responsible for sharing the purpose of the meeting and the agenda ahead of time. Being busy, having a busy calendar doesn't make you important, it makes you unavailable. Calendar should never postpone decisions. Keep meetings small, keep them short. Consider the opportunity cost, both the actual real monetary cost of the meeting, but also what the other things that could be happening that aren't happening in that meeting. If the meeting's over, end the meeting. Treat other people's time like a scarce resource, and have a culture of escalation. It's really important for driving decisions. So you can get a copy of this on my website, kennorton.com/meetings has all this. And certainly feel free to reach out. Send me an email or pin me on Twitter, where I tend to spend a lot of time. Always happy to talk about this stuff. Always happy to commiserate on meetings and meeting culture. Okay, so that's it. I have a couple of bookkeeping things. They want you to share your thoughts, fill out the session survey. If you didn't like my talk, please do not fill out the survey. You can do that with the Frontiers mobile app. And then breakouts are continuing at 2 p.m. We're going to take a quick break, and we're trying to keep everything on time, so see you back here at 2. Thanks.